Welcome to the Digital Showcase. This is our focus on technologists that are going to be at the Global Summit that'll be held in September and driven by Supply Chain Insights. Today, I'm interviewing John Tisi from Thoughtspot. Thoughtspot is, I think, a very cool technology working on making data usable and improving visibility of data in the supply chain. John, welcome to the show. Tell the group a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Thoughtspot.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. So pleasure to be here and pleasure to connect with you again. Thoughtspot is leading the augmented analytics revolution in the analytics space through a combination of search. Our founders came from places like Google and Amazon, and artificial intelligence to help augment those searches by suggesting points in your data that you might find interesting but would never think to search for. So that is where Thoughtspot's playing right now in supply chain, but also really across the board. We have customers that are invested heavily in the supply chain space, in sales and marketing, people analytics, anything where getting more granular, faster access to data by business users where and when they're making the decisions they make every day is where we thrive.
Well, what I love about the solution is that it's reasonably priced and it goes across disparate systems, because the average supply chain executive has about 110 different systems. And while we thought we'd have one ERP, the average company has 10, and I work with companies that have 40 to 100 ERPs, and people just can't seem to get to data, and so your system helps them to get there faster. So let's look at your system. Do you mind to show the group a little bit about what you do, maybe a short demo?
Yeah, so if you can see my screen here. So Thoughtspot was designed for, we'll call it the other 80%. In the analytics space, adoption hovers anywhere between 20 to 25% of analytics tools. And a big reason why is the complexity of the tool when you're using it and the amount of time it takes to learn it through training and other things. So you'll see right away, Thoughtspot is really built for that Google-like experience for a business user, a director of transportation, a procurement manager, a customer relationship manager who can simply go in and get a question answered. So we'll start with the familiar, no different than any other platform, right? You see there's dashboards, of course, but the difference with these dashboards, what happens when you have a dashboard today is you're kind of stuck. You got to go back to a data analyst to get that next question answered, right? But with Thoughtspot, you can just use search and go in. If I want to see my spend by supply, or maybe spend by supplier, maybe you want to see the top 12. Let's look at last year, something like that, right? That's a question that you would need a data analyst to potentially come up with some type of dashboard or report to find that information. Now, you saw as I was typing, this is getting, there's the images popping up in the background. The difference between Thoughtspot as a search tool and most other platforms, it's a relational search engine. And what that means is we're calculating that answer on the fly while I'm searching. So if you wanted to change it from top 12, for example, to top, 8, we would change that and simply go to top 8. And if I could type, it'd be helpful, wouldn't it? So if we did spend supplier top 8 in last year, you have to make one change there, and we are off and running. So that allows a business user to truly iterate on top of that data set to find the answer to their question, right? Which is, a big challenge that we found, even just getting a simple question answered. So as you'll see here, you have that dashboard and that visualization. You can change this on the fly if you'd like to. Many folks like to see, maybe you want to see a sideways bar instead. Very easy to do this. That alone, again, requires you to go back to a data analyst to get that done. You can also pin this to create. Remember, we talked about dashboards, right? Those don't go away. You can add this visualization if it's something you want to keep to a dashboard. Finally, you have at the bottom here, SpotIQ is Thoughtspot's AI-driven engine. So in addition to getting you the answer of our spend by supplier, our top 8 last year, this is also going to tell you, anomalies, correlations, insights in that data set, maybe things you didn't think to ask but might be truly relevant. Now, in this case, this one isn't necessarily the most insightful, right? But a number of our customers have cited SpotIQ as deriving major value from Thoughtspot by bringing them data points like stuck orders, for example, or more profitable customers, suppliers at risk, those type of things that they would never think to search for. I'll pause for questions or comments here.
So, John, technology comes to life through usage. Could you share a little bit about how a client is using your software?
Yes. So a great example actually is what we're doing right now here by supplier analysis. So we have a number of different major CPGs. We have Daimler, major automotive manufacturer, and a number of other Fortune 500 and Global 2000 organizations using Thoughtspot in the procurement side, looking at supplier analysis. I mean, a great one that you've seen lately with the geopolitical conditions, let's call it, is, okay, what's going on in China, right? You have a very large manufacturer on our side that is using Thoughtspot to analyze in real time proposed tariff changes all the way down to a particular supplier, as you can see here. If we want to drill down, we can drill down without predefined paths to get all the way down to which order numbers, with that particular supplier in China are potentially at risk, and being able to, really get a granular analysis of your suppliers. Now, what outcomes does that drive? It drives more impactful negotiation with those suppliers, being able to get all the way down to SKU level analysis, order level analysis. And it also allows them to identify risk when, the world right now and a big part of your supply chain can change with a tweet. If in 10 minutes, the president tweets something that is going to have a major impact on your supplier for rubber in China, you can go to Thoughtspot at any point in the organization and type in to start to analyze that. So that's been a big area and a great example of how our customers are using Thoughtspot to drive more agility and ultimately better access to data to make decisions much faster than competition or then faster than waiting for reports and dashboards.
So when we think about supply chain 2030 and we think about analytics, what's your prediction and how do people prepare?
Yeah, my prediction is very similar to what we saw with the internet revolution 20 years ago. If you look back at when we were all using AOL and Yahoo and Lycos. Remember Lycos? You don't hear that name ever anymore, but they were the third market share search engine at the time. Yeah. Right?
That's like history. You're not old enough to remember that, are you?
I won't tell you how old I was when I was using Lycos, but what I will tell you is when you look back at that era, it was great. You could interact with the internet in these pre-built and, organized methods. And those providers did a phenomenal job hiring curators, experts on the internet, right, who organized the internet and how they thought users wanted to experience the internet. They did that. That takes you to a point. But what happened? There's those next questions, those specific questions, those things you really want to find that just you couldn't really find. Enter Google, who built the smartest search engine, and within 2 years, the market share leader ahead of all of those platforms. AOL went from 26 million subscribers in the year 2000 to, they are still around, but under 6 million today. And nobody uses Lycos or Yahoo or Bing anymore. Everybody Googles, right? Google was able to create a smarter, easier to use, more accurate way to experience the internet down to a specific question, like where can I get a Philadelphia cheesesteak in this neighborhood of Philadelphia at this time? Those type of questions that people have. This is no different when you talk about supply chain 2030. Supply chain users are used to dealing with the AOLs and Yahoos in terms of how they deal with their data. All right, we have our data experts. They build us this. Maybe we have to ask for something different, but that's not scalable. Supply chain 2030 is going to be a combination of using these platforms, search and artificial intelligence, to ultimately get to that data instantaneously or near instantaneously to get that question answered and act on it. And the other big trend that we're seeing drive that forward that I think you'll see in supply chain 2030 is the prevalence of voice. So not even having to type in that question, being in that boardroom meeting, talking about tariff analysis, for example. Hey, Thoughtspot, show me our suppliers in China right now by pending orders, and getting the answer delivered to you by voice. So between natural language processing via search, artificial intelligence, and voice, I think supply chain 2030 will be, at our fingertips the same way that Google is now.
Well, I can't wait, because today people can't get to data for the questions they know to ask, much less the question they don't know to ask, right? So, John, I look forward to seeing you at the summit. Best of luck, and till then.
Thanks, Laura. Looking forward to it.
Bye now.